Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. As I promised in my 11/11 video, I'm going to do a card read on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and is she in any danger? What do we need to be aware of, etc. So let me find a deck here. I think I am going to I'm going to use the Thoth deck. So as it stands, what happened was that Paul Gosar, which is one of the, I think he's from Arizona, one of the most likely planners of the insurrection when it comes to people who are actually representatives of, him and Green and Bobart and what's his name, the wrestling guy, Jim Jordan, Getz maybe, who's the other guy? Oh my God, who is the other guy? Maybe Cotton. No, I don't know if Cotton had anything to do with him. I can't think of his name. It might come up. Anyway, maybe Cruz. Maybe Cruz. So Gosar put up on his Twitter account some sort of anime thing where it shows him killing, like him as a superhero, and going in and killing the Titan, which because it's sort of like, it was like an anime and then they made it into something else by putting his head and AOC's. And then he goes on to attack Joe Biden, stabbing her in the back. And of course, everybody's like up in arms because it's a threat. Except that, as far as I know, the Republicans aren't saying anything about it. McCarthy, silent. McConnell, I believe, silent. They probably think that it's a big joke because it was like an anime thing and, oh, it's silly and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, I don't know what they think. I think they don't know what to do with this kind of stuff, quite frankly. And so it was a threat, really, to her. And of course, she gets probably many death threats. And she is a beautiful, young, intelligent, doesn't care what you think, isn't under the thumb of the patriarchy. And people like her scare the crap out of people like Paul Gosar and all the other trolls. So let's see, is AOC safe? Let's ask that question. Is she safe from harm? Do we need to, is there something we need to be concerned about? So we have strength. We have strength. We have the sun in Sag. Now, she is not a Sagittarius. She's actually a Libra. But her Venus is in Sag. Her Venus is in Sag. And when this threat occurred, the South Node was close to her Venus. She also has a Sagittarius rising in her chart. So she's ruled by Jupiter. Her chart is ruled by Jupiter. What's crossing it is the Prince of Cups. The Prince of Cups, as in a negative sense, because it is the crossing card, is somebody who's a true believer. They could be delusional. They could be just not emotionally stable and not dependable. Let's see what's at the root. The Six of Swords, science, called science in this deck, but it's this balance. This is an Aquarius card. This is these are things balanced on facts. This in the other decks is moving out of troubled waters, and I think Marianne got the Six of Swords moving out of troubled water for her too, but this vibration is the 60 vibration, 60/6, so a 60/6 vibration, and it is there's poise. It's 6. It's the center of the tree. It's the heart of the matter. It's the heart of the matter here is that, so far from what I can tell, is that her strength for some reason makes these men feel like they have no power and they must attack her, because the knights really are knights like the knights of the round table, the knights within a kingdom, right? Are there for when the lord or the king decides that there has to be an action that they do fealty, right? But they're not as experienced. It's not a king. If there was a king crossing here, that would be perhaps more dangerous. In the past, we have the Queen of Swords. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who takes no guff. Takes no guff. She's a Libra. It's someone with good, just somebody who's smart. And though she's young, like many of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, come in sort of fully formed and ready to take on the world. And they're very mature, and they're very know exactly what they want to accomplish. They have a plan, and they're smart. The sun shines, so full illumination. So somehow I feel as though with the sun in Sag, strength card is the first card, the nine of wands. The 9 of wands being was actually the crossing card in my 11/11 reading that I just did. Standing strong and ready for battle, even though many battles have already been fought. So I like the sun in the up position there. Let's see the immediate. Yeah. So she is in danger. She is in danger. This is not a joke. This is to the end of the year, right? This is 6 weeks out. Unfair tactics. So they're going to try to do all kinds of unfair, abusive power kind of things. They're abusing their power. How it's seen from the outside, the truth, the sword of truth, justice. I think this is seen for what it is. domestic situation, Ace of Cups. I feel like the danger, the Five of Swords is kind of a challenging card, but it's a card of defeat. I do not believe that this is Alexandria's defeat. I think this is an exposure and an illumination of these abuses of power. Two aces, Ace of Swords and Ace of Cups. Hopes and fears, the Knight of Discs. The Knight of Discs is a knight that does things slowly, methodically, has worked and is waiting for the crops to come in. The seeds have been planted. We get the Four of Cups as the outcome card. I feel it's called luxury. I feel as though this, in a way, protects her as well. Let's see if we can pull a major arcana. The Five of Wands, strife, and the Temperance card. So we have luxury, strife, and temperance, which is about balance. So I think that perhaps he could get censured for this. I think he might be held accountable to balance the scales here. Underneath it all, I get Seven of Pentacles, the Princess of Cups, and the Princess of Swords. Interestingly, two princesses, right? Alexandria could be the Princess of Swords because she is a water sign. And then the Princess of Cups would be a water sign, right? Did I say water sign? Air sign, she's an air sign. And then the Princess of Cups, water sign. But they're both princesses, young women, right? The Seven of, in this deck, it's called Failure, but I don't see it ever as failure, this card. The Seven of Pentacles is that it's not quite ready. They're not quite strong enough. The plant is not quite full of fruit enough to be harvested. But we are talking about the rising of the feminine. And this woman, Alexandria, and Cori Bush, and Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, and Alana Presley, and many, many others, Katie Porter, that woman, Summer from Pennsylvania, Summer something. I want to say Summer Joy or Joy Summer, but I don't think that's her name. But Summer is definitely her name. For some reason, I want to say Joy. This is the future. This is the future. This is who's going to take us by the hand with compassion and some sternness and say, look, guys, we're going to change things. We're not going to step down. The feminine is rising. And it's not just women. It's the value of the feminine. It's not about men and women, because there are many men who value the feminine. There are many men who are doing their part. It has to do with an appreciation of love and compassion and feelings and body. Appreciate the body. Why do you think that these right-wing people want to control a woman's body as to whether or not she's going to have a child or not? Critical mass has been reached. There is no going back, boys. And when I say boys, I don't necessarily mean men. I mean this immature sense of, and you know, on a certain level, you know, the patriarchy is patriarchy, and it's not, and the men in the patriarchy don't necessarily get the good end of the stick, only the people at the top, and generally the men at the top, not the men at the bottom, not the men in the middle. They're used for cannon fodder. They get to do the crap jobs, right? All these poor guys who have to work in these oil fields in dealing with disgusting carcinogenic things that are dangerous. Oh, yeah, they get paid a lot of money. And somebody who's maybe perhaps not particularly, and you know, no offense to anybody who works in the industry, but you know, maybe they're not as well educated. Maybe it's brawn. Maybe it's, you know, a willingness to do the dirty job. And maybe they're getting, you know, they get to get a house, and maybe in a way that they wouldn't have been able to before. You know, they make the money that they can afford to have a life. But a lot of times, you know, they fall into the ocean. It's a dangerous job. Who's making the money? Not them. Who's benefiting from that? Not them. Who benefits from the wars? Not the people fighting them, and not the countries where they're being fought. The people who are selling the guns. The Pluto return for the United States is very much connected to the military-industrial complex. Another reason why I don't think they like to have women in charge, because they don't think they're enough of a hawk. Now, had Hillary Clinton gone in, she probably is plenty of a hawk for that. But it wasn't her time. It was Trump's time. It was time for him to come in and throw a big fat bomb into the whole thing, so we could see not only what a mess he was able to create, but what a mess was already there. He's an opportunist. He could have not done what he did unless there was an opening for him to do it. Well, so she does need to be careful between now and the end of the year for sure. But I think that she's protected. Let's put some light around her and all of them, all of those people who put themselves out there, because you wouldn't want to be the target of any of this. Okay, guys. Oh, let's look at her chart. Sorry, that was the reading. I did say we were going to look at her chart, so we'll do that. And I'll timestamp this. So for those of you who are not really into the chart, then you don't, you know, we'll just take a look. You can just stop now. Okay, that's what I want to say. All right, Alexandria's chart. Let's take a look. Okay, so let me just move a few things around here. So this is actually, it is her, but let's just look at her by herself here. So this is her natal chart. And she has a phenomenal chart, phenomenal. Here's her sun in Libra. And she has her sun conjunct Juno, which is the goddess of partnership and power, conjunct Mars in Libra. Now, while Mars is not particularly at ease in Libra, it does give a person a great sense of strategy. This woman knows how to strategize. weapon of choice, I would say, is beauty and logic and looking at both sides of it and hoping for a better future. Why do I say that? Her Venus is in Sagittarius and Mars is in a Venus ruled sign. Her ascendant is Sagittarius, which makes the ruler of her chart Jupiter. She has Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer. And that is a love of family, an expansion of family, feeding the hungry, taking care of women and children, Cancer. That is conjunct the United States sun. She has a lot of Capricorn in her chart. She has Uranus in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, Neptune in Capricorn, and Vesta in Capricorn. Capricorn is government. Vesta is what you devote yourself to. This Uranus-Saturn conjunction is a new phase conjunction of these two planets. These two planets came together in 1988, 3 times, and I believe it was in the last 3 degrees of Sagittarius. So this was before she was born. So that cycle, that Saturn-Uranus cycle, I believe, is it a 45-year cycle? I think it's a 45-year cycle. So 88 plus 45 years is when that's going to happen again. I'm pretty sure it's a 45-year cycle, but it's in the future. It's not happening now. But that Saturn-Uranus cycle that began back in 1988 is at a last quarter crisis in consciousness square in 2021. That is the same Saturn-Uranus connection that we are seeing that last quarter, 3 quarters around the 360-degree circle. Crisis in consciousness, not trusting authority, the process of individuation, moving in a more progressive and humanitarian way. We're at a crisis point in that cycle that began back in 1988 when Uranus and Saturn conjoined in Sagittarius. What do we believe? Morals, ethics. Well, so Sagittarius is far off places. She was born at a time when Saturn was just moving away from Uranus. The seed had been planted and Saturn was on its way to creating the structures that will support the potential of that new conjunction of Saturn and Uranus. So she has that within her, in her person even, because it's the first house, which is your physical person, right? So that need to create new structures is right there with her. At the same time, we have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction, even closer than the Saturn-Uranus conjunction. In this case, Saturn is moving towards Neptune. Saturn and Neptune make a conjunction, I believe, every 36 years. It will be making a conjunction in, I think, 2026 at 1 degree of Aries, the 1st degree of Aries. Right now, Neptune is in Pisces. The conjunction between Neptune and Saturn occurred, I believe, in 1989. It's close enough to be a conjunction. In fact, it probably was coming together for the last time when she was born, because Saturn is getting closer here to Neptune, because Saturn is moving this way, because they're both moving forward. Neptune, Saturn. Neptune is dissolution and Saturn is structure. So she has within her a new revolutionary, progressive urge to move forward in a progressive humanitarian way and create the structures for that. At the same time, the dissolution of the old Saturnian structures and Neptune, which is about belief, right? It could be about belief, could be about religion. You know, she is Catholic, or was certainly raised Catholic, I imagine. You know, but there's a belief, the Judeo-Christian belief, that women are less than. And in a way, within her, she embodies the dissolution of that belief. She has she has in her chart a grand cardinal square, and grand cardinal squares are they're like boxes that you, any kind of grand square, it's like you're in a box, and the cardinal energy can be energy that starts things but doesn't finish. It start. So in a way, this energy in her chart is like a catalyst. And these squares for her are in cardinal houses here, 1st and 7th, but also in the 3rd and the 9th, which are mutable houses. So this is all about movement and change, movement and change, movement and change. She has Mercury opposite the moon, and she has the moon conjunct Pallas Athena. This is the goddess of social justice. It is very personal for her. And it is very personal in the 3rd house, in her neighborhood. And she is bringing her voice to Congress, to where she can make a law, lawmakers, right, in Libra. And then over here she has Uranus and Saturn. Yeah, I would include Saturn. And Neptune. I would include all of those. Opposite Jupiter and Ceres. Of course, Jupiter is expansion. Ceres is the goddess of the grain, the goddess of food. She's a nurturing goddess, but she's also the goddess whose symbol is the sickle, which is about reaping what you sow. It's also associated with grief, because Ceres was the goddess who lost her daughter to Hades. So she has a very strong sense of values, high integrity, that in its way is antithetical to the political environment. And that, I think, is what they think makes her most dangerous, because perhaps she can't be bought. So this is her chart. Now, Paul Gosar, now I have to see if this is where, what do I have here? Yes, Gosar. So I read that it was the 7th, it was on 7/7 that he did it, and it was early evening. So I decided it was 7 o'clock at night. I have no idea. I just made it 3 7s when that was, because I'm not on Twitter. And nor would I even I don't follow Gosar, so I probably would, even if I was on Twitter, I don't think I would see it. But anyway, So this is when it happened. So I looked to see what was happening in her chart. And the main connection that I saw, we do have the South Node close enough to her rule of her chart. But here we have the Sun conjunct her Pluto, illuminating her power. So while I don't think, it was a terrible thing to do, and I don't think that she in any way, shape, or form deserves the vitriol that she gets. I think people just are scared of her, and she's willing to be out there, so she becomes target. But I think what this is really going to do is it's going to up her profile, which she doesn't really need. She does it all by herself. A lot of her, a lot of her exposure is simply because of who she is and how she relates. And the fact that she's smart and beautiful and young and brave, in a way, she's doing it on her own merit, her popularity, because the time has come for these things to be said, and she's the person saying them with integrity. So I feel like this chart, as it looks at, is just going to increase her power in a way. It's going to be her true, like, it's shining on her soul. We have Venus, which is the ruler. Well, we have Venus here, conjunct her Uranus and her Saturn and her Neptune. And the moon, because I'm not sure of the time, conjunct Uranus. The moon and Venus are both feminine archetypes within the chart. If you take out the Vestas and the Pallas Athenas and the Ceres and the feminine asteroids, the only two real feminine energies in the classical astrology is Venus and the moon. And they're sitting on Saturn, which is the old father knows best. And Venus is in Capricorn. She's all business. And the moon could be either in Sag, earlier Sag, or maybe in Capricorn, depending on when he dropped it. But close enough. Close enough. What else? So those things I see in her chart. And Jupiter, which is the ruler of her chart, in her chart, Jupiter, is conjunct her North Node. In the second house, her values, progressive, lifting all boats, Aquarian age stuff, right here, Jupiter. So in a way, while she didn't ask for this, I think this is going to make her even more of a force to be reckoned with. Not because, well, in part because of who she is and how diligent she is and how good she is and how principled she is in relation to how puerile and little boy kicking his feet and being emotionally unstable, attacking her with a cartoon. But it's still a dangerous thing to do, and it is still not right. I want to just pull some cards on Gosar, and I think I guess I'll use the Toth for him as well. Let's use the Toth for him. How is this going to affect Gosar now? What's ahead for? Is it Paul Gosar? I don't think I wrote. I don't even know if that's how you spell his name. I'm not sure. His sister talked to Lawrence O'Donnell and was livid that nobody was holding this man accountable, and she was concerned because she thinks that he's um, mentally or emotionally or having some sort of episode. I mean, she does call him a sociopath. He could have some mental illness there. And he could be escalating. But, he can say one thing because he symbolizes something that can really harm somebody who's really coming from the right place. And if something really did happen to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it would be a crime against humanity and a crime against our future, almost more than almost anybody else that they could pick on to harm. Okay. So he is in a power place. He does have power, but there's an isolating aspect to this. He's surrounded by a moat. So it seems like he's protected in some way. He's being protected. Let's crossing that. The Ace of Discs. As a crossing card, this can be a lack of money or an inability to get something started. The Nine of Cups underneath. This is the wish card, but it's also the smug merchant, right? There's it's like happiness, but it hasn't yet reached the Ten of Cups, which would be reaching the planet Earth, right? It's like all in the ethers. In the past, we have the Ten of Pentacles. So it seems like he has been funded. He's been funded by family money, not necessarily his money, not his family's money. And in the sky, we have the Lover's card, which is a choice card, but it's also a card for Trump because it's the Gemini card. In the Six of Pentacles, Six of Cups in the immediate future. Remember, she got the Five of Swords. So I think he's going to be protected through this, right? The old boys network. How it's seen from the outside, the judgment, the justice card called adjustment in this deck. So I feel like justice is on its way. People are seeing what's going on. Domestic situation. We have the Queen of Wands. This could be Pelosi. She often comes up as the Queen of Wands. Hopes and fears. Prince of Swords, instability. The outcome, the Magician. So I feel like he's being manipulated. I feel like he's being manipulated because he doesn't have power. He's sort of being asked to do this. The Hermit. So somebody in the shadows, perhaps, who's worried about money and wants to create interference. So this is, in my estimation, Paul Gosar is not even in these cards, even though I asked about him. He's just a pawn for Trump. That's all he is. It just to create, I don't know if it's Trump or the people around him are smart enough to create all of this hubbub over stuff that, really, and while it's important and it matters, especially if a woman is getting attacked or anybody is getting attacked in this way, it is wrong because people are crazy and they will do shit like this to a person because they saw a video. Okay. I feel like this is a way to distract from the tower that is happening, and that tower is connected to what's going on with the investigations around Trump. It's a distraction technique, and Gosar is a willing pawn, like most of them are. So that's what the cards said about Gosar, and the astrology really speaks of that this is actually going to be a boost in a way for her, even though it does put her in peril. It does put her in peril. So let's take a look at, before we go, I want to take a look at Alexandria's solar return. Now, I did her solar return for Washington, D.C. and for New York. I don't know where she was on her birthday. So here's Washington with a 5-degree Libra ascendant. And here is New York. No, hold on. Here's New York. No, come on, New York. Where are you? New York, New York. So it's not very different. So we could really use either chart. Let's assume she was in Washington. In her natal chart, she has the sun conjunct Mars. And Mars is at 15 degrees. And this time Mars is at 19 degrees. So even closer, or 18 and a half degrees, even closer to her sun. She has Mercury where she has her Mars, I believe, in the first house. So she has Mercury and Mars and the sun in the first house. The power to speak and do. So this is a powerful position. She does have Uranus and Taurus in the 8th house. That she has to be careful of. Because the 8th house is when we come up against forces greater than ourselves. And Uranus can be sudden, out of nowhere stuff, but it is in Taurus. So it is in Taurus. I'm not really sure what that is. I do know that, well, Taurus is the neck. She's going to have to watch her neck. She's not going to be able to stick her neck out in ways that she had before because it's dangerous for her. She has a Pluto moon conjunction, balsamic conjunction, transformation, right? And Pluto, and this is conjunct the Pluto of the United States just by a few degrees. The South Node in Sag in 2nd, the North Node in Gemini in the 8th, communicating her values, perhaps, her beliefs, pulling them forward. Powerful, powerful solar return. Now, let's look at one more thing. And this is her natal chart with the solar return on top of it. Just to kind of see what aspects, what kind of things are happening in her chart, what longer term transits. And you can see here's the sun, and here's Mars, Here's the sun, and here's Mars. This is Vulcan. This is the power behind the throne. She has Mercury right on that. So I feel like she has powerful backing here. She has Venus conjunct Venus. So this was right around her Venus return with the South Node. And of course, Jupiter on her North Node. Saturn trine her Mercury. This is her speech, her speaking for her constituency, creating the structures, second house, to support that. So she really is, I believe, only going to get more powerful through this coming year, while we all go through our Pluto return in the United States. So let's keep her in our prayers and in our hearts, and in a giant ball of white light that they would, to look at her, they would be blinded. And that's true of all the squad and all the people who put themselves out there for, she's just the most public face, but all those poll workers, all those people who were getting attacked for doing their job, and all these teachers and principals and people at bakeries who just want to sell donuts and muffins, and getting like smacked around by people who don't want to wear masks, all this craziness. Protection for those who are being attacked, and calm and peace for those who want to do the attacking, right? Let's just put the energy to calm it all down, to open, and to let those who want to ascend go, become into the higher realms, right? And leave the rest, to their own devices. And they'll sort themselves out, I think. Which sounds kind of cruel, but I don't know, that's what came out of my mouth. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, and as always, have a great evening. Much love from the seeds. Take care. Take care.